Hi, everybody. It's crazy. It's Monday, and I had just gotten over a 2 week sickness that I would not wish upon any of my enemies. It's pretty bad. It was COVID, and yeah, it would put me down for 2 weeks. I am back. I am doing better, and I'm going to make it up to all you who actually subscribed to the channel to see some videos on Friday. I'm going to do a two-parter all in one sitting. So in other words, you're going to get 30 minutes instead of 15 and 15. Okay, so this week we're up to episode number 6, and right up there. And we had left off. I accidentally scrolled up on my deal here, um, at the setting up for a game, and this is out of a book called the Game Engine book. It's the links will be in the description. You can actually look on also the BGE server and also on my server, and I would be more than happy to give you the links and everything. Drop by my server. Also, links in the description. The BGE server is also in the description, and along with a lot of other good people who do BGE and old BGE style games and designs. There's several out there. So, without any further ado, episode number 6. Here we go. It's called Setting Up, and it's finally time to dive into Blender. From now on, you may be better off reading the book with a computer at your side. In this section, we will give you a short tour of Blender, just enough to get you familiar with the software. Okay, now I'm going to probably go along with this a little bit because of the fact that I want to be able to show you some stuff as well. But for some parts, we may not even go down because I'm assuming that some people, if you're interested in a BGE, you have played around with a little bit of Blender. So I'm hoping you get some of these normal things that you would do in Blender. But even as I've been in Blender for so long, I've forgotten a lot of stuff too, especially with the old Blender and the new Blender. So we're doing the old Blender right now, and we will eventually get up to the 3.0 version of a BGE and Blender. Okay, so Blender runs on Windows, Mac OS X, and Linux. You can find the Blender installer for your operating system from blender.org. Well, I'm happy to jump over there and grab Blender and start playing around with it. The complete Blender download size is about 100 megabytes. So go ahead and install Blender. Start the application once it's installed. Now, it's going to be a little bit different because we're doing UpBGE and not actually doing Blender, but it's based on, it uses the Blender API, so you can actually look around in Blender and do a lot of the stuff that I'm getting ready to do. But when you get into the logic bricks and stuff like that, you're going to want to be able to have a BGE. So head on over to the BGE site, which is bge.org, links in the description, and go ahead and download that version. Okay, the latest, not the latest version, but the 0.2.0 version is the version I'm using in my videos here. Okay, you can use all the way up to, I believe it is 0.2.5 or 6, the latest one that they've got on that one, but you can't be able to use it on the 0.3.0 because it's a completely different UI. Okay, so here we go. Installation not required. Technically, Blender does not need to be installed before it can be used. The installer is available for convenience only. Blender will run from any location. You can even copy it to a USB storage device and carry it with you. So you'll never be apart from your favorite program. Although by default, Blender saves some user settings to the user directory. Okay, same thing with a BGE. It actually uses the Blender API in a Blender mainframe. So you basically can download what they call the carry along version, where you can actually put it on a USB and just carry it right on with you to any computer. I know this because I actually use it at work, which will not allow us to use any installed program. So I can actually run my Blender without having to fight it at work. So it's kind of nice to do. And shh. Okay. Even though you need Blender to develop the game, Blender games can be packaged as standalone application. This is still true. So that others playing it don't need to install anything, which is also true. See Chapter 9, Publishing and Beyond, for more details. Well, when we get up to Chapter 9, you'll be already versed in all this, and you'll be like, oh, yeah, okay, this is what Crazy was talking about, okay? Now, system requirements, this is a little bit iffy. If you've got a potato, as a lot of people call older computers, I have two. Actually, I have three or four, but the two that are the slowest I no longer use. I have one that I use now, which is my newer rig, and then I have an slightly older rig that I use for making my audio. But Blender has no explicit system requirement. The performance of the software is dependent upon the complexity of the project. And needless to say, the faster your computer is, the better Blender will run. Okay, so you can put Blender on an i5, bare bones, GPU built onto the computer, the computer's motherboard, and you can run Blender. But what you're going to be able to do is vastly different than a computer that has a good hardcore video card, enough memory, a newer CPU, and so on. Okay, so what you can do on UPBGE and Blender themselves are both the same. You can model a 3D character on an old potato. You can. You can also model a 3D character on a top of the line 3080, you name it, computer, and still do the same. But when it comes to how many pixels you use or how many vertices you use, those vertices add up. And after a certain amount of time, your computer will start slowing down. On my computer that I use now, I can get up to about 4 million vertices, and that's pretty good. It's not the greatest, but that's pretty good for doing a pretty good sized scene. But when you're doing a full game and you're trying to build a big top of the line game, you're not going to be able to do it on an old i5. Sorry, it's not going to happen. And at work, that's what I got, is an old i5, and I only do it when I got to do a quick rendering of something, or I'm trying an idea and I've got a little bit of downtime at work. I play around on it, but for when it comes to a lot of my heavy designs that I do, I use my big computer. Okay, so Blender Basics. When you start Blender, you will be greeted with the splash screen, although you can customize all aspects of Blender. In this book, we will assume you are using a default Blender settings and shortcuts. Okay, so if you've changed the shortcuts or you've done some other stuff to it, then it's going to be different than how it will show up on mine. And how I will show you is I will go ahead and bring it up now. Takes a minute. As you see, this is Blender. As you see up here in the corner, it says Blender, but it's actually UPBGE running on the Blender mainframe, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it over to my second window, and I hope you can see it. Yep, okay. I usually have a third monitor that I use to look at my videos, so I'm hoping that you're not seeing this. And you're seeing this, so you are, so that's all good, all fine and good. So I just want to make sure that you're seeing what you're supposed to be seeing. Now this is Blender, and it's also UPBGE 0.2.0. Okay, and as you see, I've got some that you can quick launch from if you've already started working with Blender or UPBGE. It shows up here your latest ones you've worked on. Now I'm not going to show you my latest ones. We're going to go to the default screen here because that's where we're starting. Okay, so if I go back over here, I think I got it right. Yep, okay, well, let's do it that way. Hi! Okay, minimize that. We're back over here. I wish I really had my third monitor up. I disconnected it because some games, whenever you play, if you have a different weird monitor setup, it will try to broadcast that way to the entire game, and I wound up having to turn off the monitor and go a different route with it. So right now I'm on this one, and I'm just going to read from it, and then I'll pop over to my UPBGE to show you a little bit more about it. Okay. Alright, so click anywhere else to dismiss the splash screen because y'all just saw it. Okay, you are presented with an empty workspace like this. Okay, and I'm going to tap that and see if it switches over. Yep, it did. Good. Okay, so with that, you see that you got a cube. you've got a camera, you've got a 3D plane to work with, and you can move it around by pressing the middle mouse button and clicking in on it. If you click the middle mouse button or hold it down, you can actually maneuver around your screen. There's a bunch of little shortcuts you can learn later on in time, but for now, we're going to work on just getting familiar with Blender. And if you've already done this, then you're going to be in for a little bit of a wait, because there's a couple more things we're going to go through before we even get started building a game. We've got to get these fundamentals down, and if you're just starting, this is perfect for you. If not, wait around for a couple more episodes, and I'll get into that even further. Okay? So the Blender window is divided into editors. Okay, each editor, that's this right here's an editor, this right here's an editor. Okay, all these side panels are different types of editors. Okay, you got this right here is your if I can remember it correctly, what was it? That was the outliner. That's right. You got the outliner, then you got your preferences, and your preferences are going to be a big time key in things that you're working on. Okay, so you want to try to keep this in the back of your head at all times when you're working with stuff. And now if you look off to the right here, you'll see what they call the tool menu. Okay, this tool menu here slides out. Okay, and you got all different kinds of cool stuff you can click on here that does all different kind of tools and shading and so on and so forth. And since we're working with Blender Game, we want to go from the Blender render engine to the Blender game engine. Okay, this is what's going to make a big deal when you're building a game comparable to building, say, a scene for a game. Okay, you can build a scene for a game in Blender Render. You can also do it in skillz Render, but when you got to render it out before you bring it into Blender Game. Now, if you build it straight up in Blender Game, it's going to show the exact same. Okay, so for right now, we're going to go with the main menu. Okay, which is also this right here. You've got Blender Render, which, and as you notice over here off to the side, you're going to wind up having stuff that changes on this. And that's because each different render engine, okay, because these are different engines, okay, all do different types, okay. Now, as you get into 0.3.0, it's a completely different boat. Now, we're not going to go into that on this one, but we will be getting into that once we get done with the Blender game book, okay? Once we get done with the game engine book, then we're going to actually start going into more details. We're going to actually build a game, and I want to build one with y'all. And then we're going to start transitioning from the old school, which is old Blender, which is 2.79, up to 3.0. And then we're going to be in the same learning curve. I want to keep y'all in that just as well, okay? All right, so with that, you know all these renders. So we're going to read off on that a little bit, okay? At the top of the screen is the main menu, which offers basic functionality such as open, save, help, and furthermore, the main menu controls the video. Hang on, let me reread that. Furthermore, the main menu controls the view for the rest of the Blender window. The render engine option in the middle of the menu controls how the interface is configured. So that's what we just went through. You got the regular render, you've got Blender Game, you've got skillz Render, and Network Render. Okay. Now, in the book, they didn't have the the Network Renderer, but it's okay because we got a lot of things that change. Okay, by default, usually Blender Render is set as default. Now, some people have theirs set to skillz. Some of the people even have theirs set to Blender Game. If you're planning on doing a lot of game design, then I would just keep it on Blender Game and save that startup file. You can come right over here to File. You can go to hit, where's it at? Save as startup file, and as soon as you click it, that's what's going to pop up every single time. I believe it is Blender. I've left mine as Blender because it's a little bit easier for me, because I like to switch it and manually know where I'm going. Okay. Alright, so in this mode, the interface is configured for doing 3D modeling in the cycling render. So we're going to go ahead and go to that, because that's what this book is talking about. And it is set up for doing 3D modeling, animation, and rendering with the skillz engine. Okay, but let's switch to the Blender game mode. Okay, There we go, Blender game mode. All right, so click on the drop-down menu and select a Blender game from the list, which I just did for you. Okay, see, click the drop-down menu. Okay, I just said that. This setting will unlock certain features that are not visible normally, as it also hides features that are not available in the Blender game engine. See, so now if you notice these things like popped up, this right here popped up as launch, but on cycles, it's render. You know, you've got render, animation, audio. When you change over to game, it's a completely different thing. Your screen, you know, sizes change. You can do full screen, you can do desktop, so on and so forth. There's a lot of different things, and we're going to go through a few of them, okay? Now, we're going to look at the 3D viewport. That's this right here, okay? Occupying the majority of the screen is the 3D viewport. Here you can see the 3D world you created and test the game. For now, feel free to explore the 3D viewport by holding down your middle mouse button over the 3D viewport window and dragging the mouse. Okay, see, so you can look at your cube in all different directions. That's what it's talking about. Okay, the view should rotate with the mouse movement. Mac users can use the two-finger rotate gesture in the trackpad. Okay, so you can do that on Mac too. Okay. You can do a lot of things in Mac now that you couldn't do before. The default scenes contain three objects: a cube, this little guy right here, okay, a camera, which is this little guy right here, and a light, which is this little dot right here. Okay, that's what it always comes with, and then you've got your background. Okay, to select one of these objects, you just right click on it. Use your right mouse button. I don't have screencast keys. I believe I can turn them on, but believe it or not, I've never used them, so please bear with me. I don't even know if I've got them. You used to be able to have them, but I don't think I have them. Display screencast keys. Nope. No, not in display, not in shading. Nope. I guess I don't have it in this one. So, yeah, I don't have screencast keys, so I'm sorry. But if you just use basically your middle finger to tap on this left mouse or right mouse button, it will highlight, you know, different things in here. Okay, I don't know where the screencast keys are, folks. I do apologize. Is it over here? Display. No. A little bit different when you're working with the game engine. Yeah. So I don't know where it's at. We're gonna continue on. Soldier on. Soldier on. Okay. So. See, we did the camera light. Okay, to select objects, right click. The selected object is highlighted in yellow. So as you can see, each one turns yellow. Okay. Basic navigation controls. Press and hold the middle mouse button to rotate the 3D view. Scroll the mouse wheel. Okay, so if you scroll it, go in and out. Okay. If you right click to select the 3D object. Select objects are highlighted in yellow, so you can grab that, you can maneuver it around, okay? Another common setup for the 3D viewport is to split the view into 4 quadrants: top view, side view, front view, and perspective view. You can turn on quad view by pressing Control, Alt, and Q. So you hit Control, Alt, and Q, and now I've got all 4 directions. I'm looking at top orthographic, user orthographic, okay, front orthographic, and right orthographic. Okay, that's what it's talking about. Okay, pressing the same key combination to go back to the single view. So Control, Alt, Q puts you right back to the single one. So you can go between the 4 quadrants and a single view. Okay. If you also hit N on your keyboard, it brings up your N menu. Okay. If you hit T, which brings up your tool menu. Okay, that's just a couple shortcuts. There is a shortcut key, out there. I will try to see if I can post one in the comments, or at least the location or it itself. But there are, some old school ways you can use shortcut keys to do all this. Okay, like I said, T does the toggle of the tool map, and you can toggle between different scenes and all kinds of neat stuff. There's a lot to learn with Blender, but we're not going too quickly into this. We're just going to get the highlights, okay, guys? All right, so to quickly snap to one of the predetermined views, side, top, front, and so on, the number pad is the way to go. So you get your number pad, which is off to your right-hand side of your keyboard. You've got, 0 through 9, and then you've got your divide, and plus, minus, multiply, enter, and the number lock key. Okay, so those all do a couple things. I will switch over to this screen so you can see it right here. That's what your number pad looks like. Okay, so with that, and make sure I'm back in the right spot. Yep, okay. All right, with that, you can actually hit, if you hit number pad 0, you dance between orthographic and perspective. Okay, normally you start off in perspective mode. Okay, so if you hit 5, you actually go to orthographic view. Okay, so 1 will put you at the front, 7 will put you at the top, and 3 will put you at the right. Now, if you hit 9 on any one of those, like say for example, you hit front, okay, which is 1, and then you hit 9, it goes to the back. So you go front, back, okay, as long as you hit 1 and then 9. Okay, same thing, if you hit 3, you got right. If you hit 9, you got left. And if you hit 7, that's the top. If you hit 9, it's the bottom. So whatever number you hit in conjunction with the number 9, it's going to do opposite. So if you're in front view and then you hit 9, you're going to go to the bottom view. If you hit 1, you put that, which puts you at the top, which will put you at the bottom if you hit 9. Okay, so or back. I'm sorry, front and back. Correction. Okay. So with those, you can actually change the view, and you can always middle mouse button it around if you want to really get in, or scroll your mouse button, or you want to get a different view besides front, back, left, right, top, and bottom. That kind of helps you out a little bit. That number pad key is really nice. It's best to have the number lock on. If you do not have the number lock on, those buttons will not work. So make sure your number lock is on, okay, for that. Okay, now we're going to go to the outliner, which is that one I had trouble with, which is this one right here. Okay, this is your outliner. Okay, this tells everything that's in your scene, and I'm going to read off of it right now. To the right of the screen are 2 editors. Okay, the top portion is the outliner, which contains a list of all the data in the current Blender file. For a large project, the outliner is an indispensable tool for organizing your scene. For now, you can safely ignore it because it's just going to show you your cube, which is what you got selected, and what you had selected. If you notice, okay, everything I click on pops up. Now your world and your render layers are different, and that's really not important for this aspect of the game creation idea. So, but this is your outliner. Okay, your next one is under the outliner on the right. Okay, which is right here. This. Perhaps. Well, wrong one. Good enough fun. Okay. This is your properties editor. Okay. Here you can access global settings for the file as well as settings for individual objects. This is one of the most frequently used panels in Blender. So, like I said, get used to this panel because say I want to click on the cube and I want to rename the cube. Instead of naming it cube, I want to name it something else. That's all you have to do is click on right here, highlight it, and I'll call it box. We'll call it a box. There you go. We got a box there now. So there's different things you can do, okay? And all these will be globally set and locally set depending upon how you have it set up, okay? This is one of the mostly used, this is one of the most frequently used panels in Blender, and after the 3D view, perhaps. So 3D view and this are your 2 bigger things that you're going to use. Properties editor is context sensitive. Okay, which means it will automatically display different content depending on the object that is active. So if I switched over here to the camera, you notice that it no longer says box, it says camera. These are different things that you're going to learn about Blender, and it's, a lot of the stuff is going to go out of scope if I continue on. I can't tell you every single thing that happens in Blender that you can do, but these are some of the things that you're going to. It should be a basic. Okay. All right, take a closer look at the row of icons at the top of the properties editor. Okay, that's these guys right here. These little guys. Okay, these little tabs. You got your render tab, which is basically what you'll see. Okay, and I'm gonna read them off. These tabs organize the properties into groups, with the more general settings on the top left tab, on the leftmost tab, and the more specific settings on the right. Okay, so you got the top tab, okay, which is this one, leftmost tab, which is what you're on right now, and you go through the scene, and as you go through it, it will tell you different things. Like you can actually mess with the camera's different the orthographic or panoramic or perspective views. Okay, so and you got materials you can put, you've got physics you can put, and right now since we're on the camera, okay, we really don't have that much of a selection. But watch when I click on the box. You notice that this thing just got a lot longer. Okay, you've got materials, you've got your actual name that actually is what it's going to be. It's always going to be known as cube unless you change it, which you can change it here as well. But we're going to leave it the same for right now. You've got materials you can work with, you've got textures, and we'll go into more detail about what we're going to be doing with those later on. But just for right now, we want you to, get a feel for it. Okay. All right. So another thing that we looked at is your timeline, because when it's set up, this is your timeline right here. Now I made it a little bit bigger so that way you can see it, but your timeline is basically starts at 0, and as you go through time, it progresses. So that's more of animation things that we'll be getting into later on. So as it says in the book, okay, at the bottom of the screen is a timeline window, which will be useful when you start making animations. Workspace customization. Okay, the default screen is as described here. Okay, here is set up for general use. Okay, at some point it becomes necessary to change the screen layout to accomplish other tasks. To select a different layout, use the screen's layout drop-down menu from the main menu, which is right here. Okay, this is your default. This is what it always defaults to, but there's a whole bunch. Look, you got 3D view, you've got animation, compositing, game logic. A lot of times we're working in game logic, so that's one of the ones that we're going to be really clicking base on. But if you click it, now everything has changed again. So it puts it to where you have more things. You've got your text editor, you've got your logic nodes, or not logic nodes, sorry, that's 0.3.0. Yes, we're going to get into that. Okay, you've got your blocks, okay, your logic bricks, okay, and you have your outliner right here. So basically the stuff that you need to work with while building, game logic is this one here. But a lot of people just go from default, and that's how they usually run it. Okay, some people tell you to change. When they're telling you to change to game logic, they're telling you to go here. Okay, if you're doing motion tracking, if you're doing scripting is one of those ones where you do a lot of, if you do a lot of Python in your game, you're going to be using this an awful lot, and it can be helpful for you. Okay, so let's go back to default. Apart from the predefined screen layouts, you can customize the screen layout however you like. You can even either split it an existing editor into two or merge two adjacent editors together. Okay. So you got the editor, the region, and the area. Okay. So this right here is your area, one of your areas. Okay. The region within Blender within the Blender windows is called the editor. So these regions right here, that's one, okay, even these got different ones, okay. An editor displays a specific set of contents and tools. Okay, common areas include the 3D viewport, properties editor, okay, UV image editor, and logic brick editor. There's a bunch, okay, and you've seen that when I switched over to logic editor. Right here is the logic brick editor, okay. You got different things you can work with, okay. Now, in order to get a new window, see these little three dots up here? Right up here in the top corner. Look over here. It's right over here. Okay. Look, boop. All right. In this little corner, if you grab that corner, okay, and pull down, it's going to go pull one from the bottom to the top, from the top down. If you pull to the left, it's going to pull one from the left and make it divided in the middle. So I'm going to do that, okay? We're going to left click and drag it on over. Look, that just made one. Now, look, we're going to do it again, and we're going to go down. Okay, so look at that. I got 3 windows right now already open, okay? Now, to merge adjacent windows into one is exactly the same, but it is done in reverse order. Optionally, you can click with the right mouse button on the edge of the area you want to split or join, and select the option for the area's pop-up menu. Okay, so I'll show you that with one of them. We're going to go ahead and do this. See how it says split screen? You can split it or you can join the area. When you do that, it's going to say either or. So let's go ahead and put that one back up. Okay, now you just do that again and join, and I see the arrow. I can go this way or I can go this way. Sometimes it doesn't matter, but when you get 2 different windows, you want to go to the correct window and not mess yourself up. I've done that. Okay, so just go ahead and just wherever the arrow points to is where it's going to go to. So when I click this, it's going to take out the right screen and make it into one again. Ta-da! Okay. Not only can you change the size and layout of the editor, but the type of editor can also be changed, as you can, as I will show you here in just a minute. Okay, the leftmost icon in the header can be used to change the editor type. Okay, so if you go right over here, see this right here, that's 3D Viewport. But if you click on it, left click on it, okay, so I've got a microphone in my way, so I have to do the dodge over. So if I disappear, I'm sorry. Okay, but you got all these, and you can choose from different ones. You can actually have a giant, outliner, same as this right here. Okay, you can, go to Logic Editor if you want to do logic editing. Instead, you don't really need to see it. You just want to put logic in. And also, the Logic Editor has the end window as well. Now, on a lot of UK computers, sometimes it will pop over here on this side. And if you get one from somebody and they have one, and it's over here, it's going to put it over there, but it's not going to default to that every time. If you're in the UK, it'll be usually to the left. If you're in the US, it's to the right. That's how you can tell if it's a US or a UK person doing it. Isn't that neat, huh? So, you can bring up that end window the same way as if you do in the regular 3D window. Okay? So, we're going to go ahead and go back over to my 3D viewport, which is usually at the bottom. Okay, and look, you got your 3D viewport, which also has the same end key where you can bring up and back. Okay. Alright, so almost everything a studio needs to create the game is integrated into a single interface. Okay, so it's already integrated. Okay, UPBGE is integrated into to Blender and the original Blender game engine. Okay, the original Blender game engine was built completely into Blender. And UPBGE uses the same window technology that the Blender game engine does. So if you're questioning, oh, well, this is BGE and not UPBGE, if you have UPBGE, this will work just fine. If you're using the original Blender, okay, for this, which is 2.79, you still have the Blender game engine, but a couple of things will be a little bit different. Mine's got a little bit newer stuff on 0.2.0. UPBGE 0.2.5 or 2.6 also have different setups than the original Blender game engine. So if you're the type of person I'm like, oh, I'm gonna play the Blender just Blender game engine, UPBGE is the same. Hate to say it, but it's in the same lines, and they both use the exact same framework. So you might as well just go ahead and come on over to UPBGE, jump on in here. It's the same. There's not really that much difference. There's a lot of things changing, and there's a lot of things that are good. Not all things are good, but at least at this point, you still have a forward going in UPBGE because the Blender game engine, the BGE, is no longer when you get past 0.2.7, or I'm sorry, 2.79. After 2.79, when it went to 2.8, it changed. There was no Blender game engine. There was no BGE. You would not be able to find it no matter how hard you tried. And the guys at UPBGE made it work with 2.0, okay, to 2.8, okay. When it went to 2.8, UPBGE guys were trying and they were doing great, and now they're up to 3.0, which is really jumping in there. So if you want to get into that, we'll get into that after these books, okay. So here we go. All right. So let's see. Almost everything a studio needs to create a game is integrated into the single interface. You can create the game, test the game, and play the game all from the same program. Okay? This means that as an artist, you can create a game in the shortest time possible without having to worry about importing and exporting files between different applications. As a programmer, you won't have to switch back and forth between different software just to test your code. Okay? See, all you Pythoners out there who you understand that hate have to start up your game and then you go, oh, I forgot that line. So you got to go back into your code program. Some of y'all use IDLE, and you got to go back into there and you got to scroll through and it's like, okay, well, it's 156 right here. I got to change this. You go back into it and next thing you get another error. You got to go back out and go back into the other. Guess what? Blender's different. UPBGE is different. It's right there. You got it on a text right there. And I'm going to show you that here in just a second. As a matter of fact, I'm going to switch this one because we can, and you can go to the text editor. Okay, let's pull that down. Let's say you're working on a little bit of code. Okay, and you got code all up in here. Okay, some code. All right, that's not code, but all right. So up in here, and this is where your code problem is. Okay, you start your game and it says, oh, there's a problem. You go in, check it, it's okay. I'll come right over here. I fix my code. Boom, it's fixed. You're right here working on it. You're not fighting having to go back out of the game. Okay, so you lose wherever you're at to try to figure out what number you're on. All you Python people out there, this is a good way to go. And there's a lot of people in UPBGE right now that use a lot of Python, and they jump on it and they know how to do it because they've got it right there, set right there, dude. Oh, actually, probably over here. I don't know. I can't see myself. So, but nonetheless, as a programmer, it would help you out a lot. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So more on the 3D view. Okay, that's right here. Let's put this back to the outliner, so that way we're in normal views here. Okay. Make sure you grab it by the top. Okay. So. On a 3D view. The 3D view is where you will spend most of your time. Okay, so let's take a look at it in a bit more detail. You've already learned a few ways to navigate around the scene earlier in this book. Okay, using both the mouse and the keyboard. So mouse, you can use the N key to bring up stuff. You can use a T key to bring up stuff. Okay, you also have your different views, top, front, right, okay? You could always change your view and maneuver it around, okay? Now, there's different shading modes, the viewport shading modes. Let's look at the 4 different viewport shade modes available in the 3D view. Okay, they are used to change the way the scene is displayed on screen. 4 modes are, and that's right here, okay? Oh, I'm sorry. There. For the 4 modes, this one you actually have 5. Okay, you've got bounding box. Okay, you've got wireframe. You've got solid, and you've got textured. Now, what's been added previously to this book, and it's been added on, it's called materials, because now you can see your material view. Now, on solid view, you just see this right here. It just shows you that. Okay, wireframe, you get to see just what it looks like as a wire. Okay, you got bounding box, which is hardly anybody uses. But then you've got your textured view, and you also have your material view, which both of these are kind of relatively the same because of the fact that they both use the same. You got to use your material. Okay, if I change this material to red, or let's change it to green. Look, your material changes. Okay, so does your textured view. It still stays green. But if I put a different texture in here, which I'm not going to go in right now, but if I change the texture and I made the texture a completely different, thing, then it would show up here. Like if I made it bricks. Okay, so let's go ahead and, put this back to normal coloring because we don't want all green. There we go. We put it back to normal colors. Okay, so that's just standard. All right. The two most common used shading modes are wireframe and solid, because a lot of people use just a solid, so that way you ain't got to worry about the colors messing with your eyes. Or sometimes you've got so many things that wireframe is easier to see. Okay, so if I hit this and just shift delete it and shift delete it and shift delete it and shift delete it, shift delete it and shift delete it, you've got a lot of boxes in there, and if I put it on solid view, you can't see this box right here from this box right here, right? But if you go in the wireframe mode, I can work with that particular box. I can actually click on this other box and go into it, and I can see the full box. That's basically what it is, okay? So let's hit Control Z. Control Z is your friend for removing mistakes quickly and not having to fight stuff. Okay, Control Z. If you want to redo it, it's Control Shift Z. Look, I can put all that back. I can take it all away. Okay, those are just a couple more shortcuts you're going to learn, and I will basically tell you which ones I use, and it's a lot easier to mess with if you know. And I'm gonna try to see if I can figure out how to do screencast keys. So I'm sorry I don't have that up. Okay, but as it goes on in the book, it says pressing the Z key to toggle between wireframe and the view mode. So now you can hit Z, and it goes between wireframe and solid. Okay, initially you can hit Alt Z to toggle between that and the textured view. Okay, now you can't do. I can't remember which one it is for. I think it might be Shift Z. No, Shift Z. No. Well, it's one of the two, but you used to be able to switch over to, material mode. But this is an older book, so we're kind of going along with that. Okay. Now I got to switch over real quick to this to see what my time is. Ooh, we went a little bit over. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave it here. I'm going to read this last little part. It says, standing out. Individual objects can also override the viewport shading mode via the setting under the properties editor, object display, and type. So you can come on over here. You can go down here. Okay, display and type. So if you had textured, you can actually make it wireframe without ever changing this off of solid. Okay, so it can help you to work with different stuff. Okay, all right, so that's where I'm going to leave it for today. Let's see, I'm going to hit, I believe it's that one. That should, I'm going to bring it up, and you'll probably see my ugly mug like 500 million times. Nope. Okay, so it's this one. Nope. That one. There we go. Okay, let's kick it back over here. So this is what I'm up to. So next time, next video, you'll see that we're going to go into editing modes, messing with object mode and edit mode. Okay, so I wanted to do a little bit more of extensive video because I missed out on 2 weeks, and I do apologize that, like I said, COVID had got me, and I did my whole family, so it was kind of rough to do. So I thank y'all, and I'm going to, there we go. We're gonna kick back over to there. Let y'all know that next Friday, or this coming up Friday, I will have another video for you. Okay, so don't be afraid. I will have a video because I'm no longer sick. And I just wanted to get y'all caught up a little bit on speed. I do apologize for being so far behind. Friday I will have another 10-15 minute video, and it will continue on from editing modes. And if you'd like to check me out on Discord, drop on in. Server's down below. Let's the same old stuff as before. And I didn't get to say this before. My trusteds, you guys rock. My crazy fam, I love you. And to my patrons, thank you for all your support. You guys have a great day and stay well out there.